Second hour of the drive.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning.
You're going to talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
All right, we have breaking news out of the NFL. Oftentimes comes right when we've got a segment all planned, and then boom, as we're coming back on the air, Kyle says in my ear that breaking news, so I'll let Kyle take it from the Kyle Madsen Sports Desk. Fade down one, fade in the other. Kyle, breaking news out of the NFL. Let us have it.
ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that Browns running back Kareem Hunt will be suspended for 8 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. That's according to a league source.
Okay, so there's 2 ways we can go with this. First way, the first conversation is the nature of the punishment. Is that enough? Did he deserve it? Did he deserve more? Et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that is a much more drawn out, much more complicated conversation. In fact, that's not how I feel. It is, as a matter of fact, a much more drawn out conversation. Now, to be clear on that suspension, I don't know if it's fair to look at it like this. He was released after game 11 last year. If he suspended 8 games, if you tack on those 5 games, and obviously let's not even include playoffs, but if you tack on those 5 games, it's going to amount to that incident is going to cost him 13 NFL games, not counting playoffs.
Right.
We can get into it, maybe we will later, how we feel about that suspension. Just to be clear, I don't want us to sound tone deaf, and I don't want us to sound like we don't have our priorities in order. But let's just real quick talk about the NFL repercussions for the Cleveland Browns. That is tremendous news for them. They're going to have Kareem Hunt for half a season.
Yes.
And they're going to put Kareem Hunt in a backfield with a guy that I think, when you talk about all the young, talented running backs, might be the most underrated of them all, and that's Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, who...
Man, you are a big Nick Chubb guy. You love your fantasy points.
I have been high on... Now, to be fair, and I know you'll be fair here. Chubb! I have been high on Nick Chubb since before the season started last year, before he was on my fantasy team, coming out of school, watched him play, saw him go through that injury. This is a hell of a talented back.
Yeah.
And yes, if you're a college...
Really good player.
One of the great things and bad things about being a college football fan, if you watch a lot of college football, as I do, you will sometimes become unnecessarily attached to players that you saw come up. You want to see him succeed in the NFL, generally, if you root for him.
Absolutely.
So I'm a little biased when it comes to Nick Chubb. But at the same time, let's remember, Nick Chubb really didn't get too into the swing of things until really the first quarter of the season was done, and ended up as a rookie, putting up some pretty darn decent numbers. 996 yards on the ground, 8 touchdowns. He also caught 20 passes for $150 and another 2 touchdowns. Had 10 total touchdowns last year. And again, that's really with him being behind Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson for the first part of the season. You put Kareem Hunt in that backfield, and they still have Duke Johnson, correct?
Yeah, but they're shopping him according to reports.
Let's just assume they shop him. Let's just assume they shop him.
Well, even if they don't, it's Hunt and Chubb are 1-2 there.
Again, we're talking pure football here. The good news for the Cleveland Browns just continues to roll in, because now, and maybe you could have made an argument with Ingram in New Orleans. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's a better 1-2 punch in the sport in the backfield than Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Can you give me one? Am I missing somebody?
Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon.
Okay.
No, maybe I'm just dramatically overlooking something, but
I mean,
I don't think
and
there
James
is.
White, Todd Gurley, and
C.J. Anderson.
O.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson. Yeah. So you have what's his face with Gus, not Gus. Who's the running back for Alex Collins?
Nope.
Who the hell's the Ravens running back?
Nope, not Gus Bradley, not Gus Johnson.
Where's Collins?
Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards. Thank you.
I believe they released Collins
Did
after
they release Collins?
a really bad traffic
Did
citation.
They? Man, I completely missed that story.
Yeah,
My
he got in trouble with the law.
I don't think you have a better backfield in the NFL than Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Yeah, I don't think they do. And then, my God, if they're able to keep, if they do keep Duke Johnson, who's one of the better pass catching running backs, David Njoku, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield. Like,
Rashard Perryman.
we haven't even gotten to their defense. I inherently try, like, it's an instinct to try to go against the grain when it becomes mob mentality or groupthink. And there's so much hype on the Browns right now that I'm like, dude, slow down. How about they make the playoffs first? Mm-hmm. This is still the Browns, and I'm sure
they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, like, I think you kind of have to start looking at them as they're going to make the playoffs, but they've also got to be a contender in the AFC. You got the Chiefs.
On paper, for sure.
On paper, for sure.
But we've seen the Chiefs do it. We've seen the Patriots do it. We haven't seen the Browns do it. At least not on the field. Go ahead.
From the 916, Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon. Kyle agrees with that.
Get out of here.
Kyle's a huge Fournette guy.
Frank Gore, LaShawn McCoy.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. I mean,
the thing, oof. And I know you said we were talking football.
Yes.
And Kareem Hunt is basically going to get to go through training camp. Mm-hmm. He's going to get to play all the preseason games, go through all the offseason workouts.
Yep.
And then he'll stay in shape, and I'm sure he'll be watching games and film and stuff during his 8 games suspension.
God, not only will he stay in shape, he's going to be fresh.
Yeah, they're getting basically a fresh Kareem Hunt halfway into the season. That is a huge, huge win for the Browns.
Man.
But for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, and you included, the Browns were this really, really awesome, feel-good, like, man, look at the Browns making moves. And now this. And I know they signed Kareem Hunt a while ago, but it's going to make it, for me anyway, it's going to make it much harder to root for them.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation.
Sure.
That's a whole different.
Yeah.
That's
take away names and faces and everything, and adding a fresh Kareem Hunt 8 games into the season to that roster is ridiculous.
By the way, this just in: Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, 23 years old. They're the same age. Nick Chubb's actually 4 months younger, but they're Kareem Hunt's 23 years old.
Golly.
I mean, again, from a football standpoint, I can't be mad at the Browns from a football standpoint for all this, these things that are happening. And yeah, I'm channeling my inner Kings fan. Yes, I am. Someday I want the sports world to be like, God, and the Kings drafted this guy in the 2nd round, and he turned out great, and this free agent side, break up the Kings. Dare we say they're a title contender? Of course I'm thinking like that.
Your ability to tie everything back to the Kings is remarkable.
We should actually make that a game one time. Like, you just throw out something so random.
Sure.
And I'll tie it back to the Kings.
You could do it. I don't think there's a single thing I could throw at you that you couldn't tie to the Kings.
Okay. The Kareem Hunt thing took over that segment. We'll get to the Major League Baseball rule changes in the 8 o'clock hour. I forgot to mention something, Kyle, from our trip to Mesa and Oakland A spring training, something that you, myself, and Joe the engineer, it was a topic of conversation often down there. Hohokam Park in Mesa, Arizona is directly across from a massive graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, everything I'm about to say is not a bit, and we're not joking. Massive graveyard. And what we noticed,
and not across the street, like down the street and around a couple corners, like you could stand on the sidewalk and lob a baseball across the street and it would land in the cemetery.
Directly across the street. For pretty much the entire property of Hohokam Park across the street is a graveyard. And what we noticed, I mean, okay, graveyard's across the street from a stadium, whatever.
Yeah.
there were a ton of orange trees in this graveyard.
In the graveyard.
With oranges that were like ripe and ready to go.
Fresh.
So we had this running conversation. Like real. I would ask you guys out there, would you eat an orange that was grown in a graveyard?
Like the roots of the trees are in the ground.
Right. And
with the people.
We got like really deep into this. Like, you know, worms do their thing, and then they go here to the place, and then they squiggle out to the other place, and then the roots happen, and then the tree and oranges. Like, they're straight up death oranges. Like, that's what it is. Like, they are oranges sprouted
like
from...
we talked about the shower orange.
Right. This is a death orange.
This is a death orange.
So, number one, we might be ignorant here. I have a feeling we are. We usually are.
We
Number
definitely
one, are growing oranges in a graveyard a thing? Like, is that some sort of good luck thing or whatever that we don't know about?
Right.
Number two, what do you do with all those oranges? Do people eat them?
I don't think I could. Yeah, I don't think I could do that.
No. Threefer Madness coming up next. Would you eat a graveyard orange? Will not be covered. It's Kings-centric. We've got 3 Kings questions for you and 3 Kings answers. Sean Salisbury at 7:35 right here on The Drive. Sports 1140 KHTK.
Welcome back to The Drive. Time for Threefer Madness.
The right wing fires up a three. Count it on a foul! Lets the three-point shot fly. Oh, he's done it again!
Threefer Madness.
Oh, he's done it again!
Time for Threefer Madness. 3 questions, 3 answers.
All right. Threefer Madness in a second. A lot of response on the graveyard orange. Kyle, first off, somebody says graveyard orange is the name of my band. I'll support that.
That's fair. It's a good band name.
Were there people sitting near the graveyard with bags of oranges selling them? No. And we looked for that. Also, somebody saying the oranges aren't edible. They're sour oranges. They're grown all over Arizona it says for aesthetics only. I think that's aesthetics.
Okay.
I don't have a verification as to whether or not that's true. That would make sense. Threefer Madness brought to you by Fire Wings. 21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com, Kyle. Just wing it. Question number 1.
Are the Kings?
Sorry. Question,
Do you want me to talk, or you want to play stuff off your computer?
is it either or? Question number 1.
No, fine. Go ahead, play your stuff.
Question number 1. Go.
Are the Kings' playoff hopes dead?
Are the Kings' playoff hopes dead?
Come on. Come on.
Like, they're not... Like, they're mathematically still in it, right? I have to say that as a caveat. Stranger things have happened.
2 seasons worth.
But yeah, they're... Yeah. I said it. They had to sweep Philly and Boston to have any chance, especially after that Washington loss. At this point, literally, they could win out the remaining 15 games, and that's not a guarantee. They would probably get in, but that's not a guarantee.
If they go 15-0, they would need the 76ers, not the 76ers, but the Clippers to go. So what did I say, 16? They'd have to go 6 games. How many games do the Clippers have left?
They are 5 games behind LA,
right,
but they're 6 because of the tiebreak.
And how many games do the Clippers have left?
The Clippers have played 69 games so far.
Nice.
So they have 13 games left.
The Kings, right. The Kings need the Clippers to win what, like 6 of those games?
Yeah, they'd have to go something like 6 and 7. And the Kings would have to go undefeated.
5, maybe. That's 7, 6.
Yeah, the math. The
it's
point.
It's tough.
The point is that it's at the point where, like, even if the Kings went undefeated, these other teams would all have to go 500 or below. It's not. The new goal now. You adjust your goalposts here. The new goal now is simply: can the Kings finish above 500?
And
I believe they will.
If there's anyone going, wow, they're quitting on the King. Like, no.
No, not
you're
now.
You're not quitting. You're still going to watch, and you're still going to hope they win every game.
Right.
And you're going to hope that the Clippers or Spurs lose every game.
Sure.
And hope that the Kings sneak into the playoffs.
Sure.
The reality of that happening is very small.
But when they were 3 back with 20 to play, yeah, that's kind of quitting on your team.
Right.
When they're 6 back with whatever it is to play.
15.
15. Yeah.
16.
Question number 2.
What's wrong with What's wrong with Bogdan Bogdanovic?
Okay, so there's the possibilities that we don't know about. I don't think he played in the summer last year. I could be wrong. I don't have a memory of him playing in anything.
Wasn't he coming off a knee injury?
He was coming off a knee injury and missed the first part of the year. So the other possibility is maybe there's an injury that's bothering him that we don't know about. In fact, I do happen to remember a question Katie Christensen asked him in the post game about, I think, a toe or something like that. And he was real offish. Like, that's not something we talk about. Like, I'm fine. Like, he didn't want to talk about it at all. And I get that. You look at me weird. Why?
That I was looking at what he said.
Yeah. No, I understand why he said it. Like, you generally, that's a player's not going to want to talk about an injury because
like, oh yeah, it hurts like hell.
That's a scouting report for the other team. So I think maybe he's bothered by something, but I also think Bogdan Bogdanovic is not a starter. And I think that's the main reason. I don't think he plays with that. If Coach Yeager has made a mistake this year, and he's made a few, I would say one of the bigger ones is trying to start Bogdan Bogdanovic. He tried to pull a lever. They don't all work. That's not where he's comfortable. Bogey is great coming off the bench as a sixth man running that unit.
I think even when he was coming off the bench, he was struggling a little bit. And I'm going to say, since that game winner against the Lakers, and I'm not saying the game winner had anything to do with it, it's just that was kind of the point that his season started going downhill. Maybe it's a sophomore slump, and next season he comes back and he's excellent again. But it looks to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a playmaker last year.
Absolutely.
Sometimes he would score, sometimes he was distributing. He was just a playmaker. And this year I feel like there's a lot of possessions where he's just dribbling the air out of the ball and then putting up a bad shot.
Yep.
He's not looking to make the right play. He's looking to score.
And to be fair, a lot of his playmaking is very deliberate. You know, he'll just kind of dribble around a bunch in the key and then, I'll find someone, or here's a bunny. But it just hasn't been right. Really, since the Lakers buzzer beaters, it's been kind of the mark in my head. Question number 3.
The Lakers buzzer beater, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. The Kings and Sixers, who you got?
Well, I went with the Kings last night.
I thought it was going to work.
I did too. I really did.
I was really excited to give you crap for that.
Kings with the backdoor cover too last night. They were they were plus 7.5. And that was getting when the fouling and stuff was going on. Well, I'm just saying, if somebody had taken the Kings, I'll bet you they were at home going, stop. I'll just bet that's my guess. Let's keep a good streak going. I'm gonna go Kings 108. Low scoring game here. Kings 108, Philadelphia 155. 108-155, Philadelphia edges the Kings tonight.
That's probably too dangerously close to a possibility. If you told me the Kings lost 148 to 108 tonight, I would be skeptical, but I wouldn't totally deny the possibility of that happening. Back end of a back-to-back. Brutal loss last night.
What's your pick?
I've got the 76ers by 10. I think they win 120 to 110.
From the 530 question, if the Kings go 2-13 to finish the season, which is possible given the last 15 games, how would you evaluate the season? I would come over to your house and I would check your glasses prescription. Dude, 2-15, anything's possible, don't get me wrong, but they're going to win more than 2 games next week alone. They've got a 4-game homestand in which Brooklyn's the big test.
I get what he's saying. He's to this point it's been great, but what if they really face plant at the end? I think it would depend.
I think it would depend too.
But that would be it would be worrisome for me.
They go 2-13. I'm going to go in there and kiss Jay right on the mouth. I'm going to put it out on YouTube.
Pucker up, baby.
That's right. Wait, I didn't expect that response.
Oh, sorry. Was my mic on?
I'll contemplate that during the break. Sean Salisbury coming up next. We'll ask Sean about the Graveyard Orange. It's a good question. We'll also ask him about all this football stuff, too, and maybe some baseball changes. Sean can talk about anything right here on The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Sean Salisbury will join us momentarily. 1-800-920-1140 is your Firewings hotline. 21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com. Just wing it. Text us at 441140. That's all brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Nice fade, Dave. Jiffy Lube won't take care. They've got you covered. Speaking of Zion Williams, Jay Williams, former number 2 pick in the draft out of Duke, suffered a horrific motorcycle injury, has now made a name for himself as a commentator. Frank Howard tripped Zion Williamson in the game last night. Frank Howard of Syracuse. And Jay Williams was not happy about it at all. Here's some of the audio of Jay.
There's no place in the game for stuff like this. I said the same thing when the Grayson Allen stuff happened a couple years ago. The same thing just happened there with Frank Howard. We have the replay. You see that straight up. There is no place in the game for that. No place in the game for that. It's uncalled for. And I wish we could go back because that's a play where I feel like players need to get it. I think when I look.
So Jay Williams very upset at Frank Howard tripping Zion Williamson. And he said the same thing about Grayson Allen. By the way, Zion Williamson plays for Duke. Grayson Allen plays for Duke. Jay Williams went to Duke. So you heard him say right there, he said the same thing when Grayson Allen was doing it. So let's catch up with Jay Williams a few years ago.
Grayson is an NBA player. I think he translates a little bit differently. I think he can be a good NBA player.
Get there.
I kind of like, you know what? I'm over it. I like the fact that he trips people. Why not? Be a villain. Enjoy it. Like, I'm not saying it's right, but I will say sometimes there's a tendency to overreact because as a Duke player, you're always hated against. People are always telling you that you're soft. You're a choir boy. So sometimes you want to prove to people, like, no, like, I'm from not a great area. Like, I can play basketball just like anybody else. Game. There is no place in the game for stuff like this. I said the same thing when the Grayson Allen stuff happened a couple years ago. The same thing just happened there with Frank Howard. We have the replay. You see that straight up. There is no place in the game for that.
Like, how do you even recover from that, Jay? Thanks to our good buddy Old Takes Exposed for putting that out there. How do you even recover from that? What do you say? Like, you're literally caught on tape saying opposite things. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll just bet at some point during a broadcast, I would not be surprised, let me put it that way, if at some point during a broadcast or Jay Williams analyzing a Duke game, at some point he said there's no place for Grayson Allen doing that. And then maybe in the postseason or after he went to Utah, said, okay, be a villain, whatever. But they're literally the opposite things of what he said. And it makes you wonder, it also brings it up a little bit further because you're talking about a Duke player tripping somebody else and you saying, be a villain. And then, of course, the Duke player gets tripped and says, there's no place in the game for that.
And I don't remember exactly what he said about Grayson Allen tripping people at the time, but I'm very, very sure, I'm 90% sure that he was not as vehement. There's no place for that in the game. He should be ejected. I guarantee it wasn't that strong. I guarantee it was like, you can't be doing that.
I mean, okay.
It's almost like Jay Williams went to Duke.
What?
Kind of seems like that.
God, what would happen if that was North Carolina tripping people? Jay Williams would have rushed the court and tried to spank whoever tripped his guy. Sean Salisbury's ready. He will join us here in just a second. Speaking of your Sacramento Kings, we talked about, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the 805. I got a stat. In their last 11 games, somebody put out here the Kings are 4-11 in their last 15 games. Yeah, that's one way to talk about it. In their last 11 games, the Kings have lost at Denver, at Golden State, at Boston, and home versus Milwaukee and home versus Boston by a combined 13 points. That's counting. That's counting. Last night, 6-point loss. Meaning they've lost 5 games by a combined 13 points. Ugh. Loss is a loss. A loss is a loss. Joining us right now, you can follow him online at Sean Unfiltered on the Twitter machine. Also a well-respected and very successful radio host, which is no surprise, SportsTalk 790 in Houston. That is 1 to 4 p.m. Check it out on the iHeart app as well. Sean Salisbury joining us. Good morning, Sean. How are you? Oh, Sean's phone's not up. Oh, we lost Sean. Oh, that's weird. I was wondering after I went to him, I couldn't hear anything. Maybe Sean heard that intro and said, you know what? I've been coming on Dave's show now for, what? Let's see, 8, 9 years? I'm done. I'm done with this. I got better things to do. I have better things to do with my life than talk to Carmichael Dave about whatever dumb thing he's going to bring up. Well, maybe I'll just do it. Oh, we got him back on the line. Well, maybe I will just spend this interview asking Sean nothing but serious sports questions. And then he will not get mad and hang up anymore because I respect the hell out of Sean Salisbury. Hello, Sean.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm good.
All right, we'll start with a very important question. When we were at a spring training earlier this week, their stadium is across the street from a graveyard. In that graveyard, all over the graveyard, Sean, are orange trees. And we found ourselves obsessing on this. Tons of oranges everywhere. But if you knew that an orange was grown in a graveyard, would you eat the orange?
Only reason I wouldn't is out of like karma superstition,
right?
Not because I wouldn't. Not because I wouldn't think it would taste, would taste poor or wouldn't be as good. That the ground wasn't as fertile. I would not. As a matter of fact, it's probably really fertile since it's a respect factor to those who have passed.
Sure.
I actually think about that stuff. So I'd probably pay if they said, well, it was in a graveyard, we picked it from a tree. I would probably. That's like sacred ground for me. And so I wouldn't pick a blade of grass. I mean, I would. I'd clean trash up when I go over and visit my father's grave to put flowers on it once a year minimum on either the anniversary of his death or on his birthday. You clean up dead leaves around it, put them in the trash. So around the grave, or if there's a trash that's kind of flowing, you go over and pick it up. That's like sacred ground to me. It is like being in a church house. There are just certain things you don't do. I would not. I get why maybe the orange trees make it look really good, surround it so it's a pretty graveyard. But I would not, just on sheer superstition alone. It's like, Dave, I'm just honest to God truth, other than if I have to, leaving after surgery on my knee where they take you out in a wheelchair. They'll be sitting around a wheelchair and people will be sitting in the waiting room and somebody will sit in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's waiting for somebody, and just a patient will sit in a wheelchair waiting for them to be called. I won't sit in a wheelchair. I don't step on the handicapped blue thing where the parking is. I don't even walk in that space. I walk around it.
Sure.
That's like superstition. So no, I wouldn't touch the orange. I would give it to somebody else, or I would not eat it from a graveyard just out of pure superstition on holding that graveyard in high regard.
Okay, I'm with you on every single thing you just said, especially having a mom with a handicap placard there. So you and I could not be more on the same page. And before we get to real sports, then I have to ask you this, though. You're out in public, and you roll into the men's bathroom. The only bathroom open, the only stall open is a handicap stall, and Sean, you're hurting. You're absolutely. Do you suffer through it because of the karma, or do you make an exception?
Here's the only place, and even if sometimes I don't even have to be suffering through it.
Right.
I first of all make sure that there's nobody waiting for it. If I have to, I don't like to go in a public place. I would not do it. But if it's empty, and I will choose that stall first because it's more space for a tall guy.
Right.
Honestly, especially if you're walking through the airport and you're like in a coat and tie and you just need space.
Yeah, you can hang everything up.
I will never, stand up and pee, in a handicapped toilet, because that's just like, come on, man. You could wait for that. But if you're in that gut bomb moment and you got to do it, yes, because I'm tall.
Right.
But if somebody was waiting, I would not do it just for the fear. What are you doing walking in there, dude? But if I'm first and nobody's in line, it's not a packed like airport or something, I will just for the space. But that's few and far between, because I spend very little time in my life in a public bathroom sitting on a toilet. I won't do that. But as often as I possibly can, I will not do it.
All right, we've knocked a lot of good stuff out here so far, and we're not even 5 minutes into the interview. And Sean Salisbury joins us. I was trying to get you to laugh before I asked you, and man, I know it hurts your heart, but I got to ask you about USC. I got to ask you about all this stuff coming out. You are a proud Trojan, a proud alum.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong. And Sean, you're always, if nothing, you're dead honest on stuff. But I believe we've talked before about you getting into college and how you literally had zero shortcuts whatsoever. That your dad would have never allowed that. I think I remember that conversation. But when you hear stuff like this, does it make you want to punch things? How do you feel?
Yeah, just for me. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to go to USC. I come from a blue-collar family that it was either scholarship or bust.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And my parents did everything they could. But that's part of the reason my dad was so adamant about me playing a sport every season and doing well in school so you could write your own ticket. My dad was one of those. He didn't really want to rely on anybody else to write the ticket for you. So my dad said, "You're going to carve your path, and you're going to do it. If you want to do it, then here's how we're going to do it." And we set a plan, and bingo. Now, my dad was the 180 degrees opposite of a helicopter parent. But my dad was adamant about when you got into something, you finished it. And you did it well. And so we would. But it's a disgrace. Here's what I guess as I get older, I try not to do it in any situation, Dave, I honestly, is to bury a full university or a full program or a group of people. I guess what I'm trying to say, I don't like to put an umbrella statement on anything anymore.
Right.
It's like when we say, I can't believe the Republicans, or I can't believe the Democrats. Well, that's not fair. There's a lot of good people, maybe a couple that drive you crazy. That's the person. It's like a university. Just because one guy at the university cheated on took money from the university doesn't mean every single athlete that's ever gone through there took money. And in this case, you have a coach that's a cheater, and unfortunately been there a long time. Hopefully universities that didn't know much about it, I'd like to hope, Stanford and Southern Cal and Wake Forest and Yale. I mean, I would like to hope that the president of the university and all that didn't sit back and say, yeah, go, if you can pull it off, pull it off. I think there's more morals, and at least I hope so. But you get a couple bad people that make it bad for everybody. The problem is then we start to think, well, how often has this happened? Is it 65 kids? Is it you don't know? So the story, is going to obviously we're going to find out more about it. But yeah, when you're lumped in with it, people judge this. Every interview I've done since then is like this. That somebody mentions it.
Sure.
So I think it's a disgrace. I think it can't happen. I feel sorry for the kid that got denied, for that one kid who got in because the parents bought him in. Whether it's Felicity Huffman or whether it's Lori Loughlin or any of the other people that weren't celebrities that did it, I think it's a disgrace. If the kid didn't know, if I was the kid, I'd be awfully pissed at my parents, because think how the rest of the students at their former high school or people they're around now are going to say, you didn't earn a bit of this. I personally would take them all out of school, too. They don't belong there. I know even if the kid didn't know, it's not the kid's fault, but kid got in, the kid shouldn't be there. Now, if all of a sudden the kid's there, maybe they're a junior and they're making they're an A student, you know what I think? Is they're cheating on their tests or so. That's how I think. Now, maybe they were really good students and just couldn't get in because, that year that they allow 150 new students in, or 500, that you weren't one of the 500. It's competitive. It is. But it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace for those who work hard and don't have money that want to get in. It's a disgrace for those that did get in by buying it in. And I can't believe society that some guy built a business to cheat. I don't understand that. This dude, with Singer is his last name, I believe, builds this business and pubs it in a quiet way, $28 to $30 million worth, builds a business knowing while he's building it that he's doing it to cheat and beat the system. Now you tell me I can't even fathom doing something. Say, you know what? I'm going to raise my life to cheat, to make money, to get a system. And I know people say, well, that happens every day. I just can't fathom it. So, yeah, it's a disgrace what happened at SC. If there's big punishment, hand it out. Hand it out to whoever needs it. Get those kids out of school and put the kid who was next on the waiting list, let them come in and transfer to USC or to Yale or to Stanford. Yeah, it's a disgrace, and the coaches think they're eventually that they're going to get away with it. You know what? You rob Peter, you're going to pay Paul. So, yeah, it's a disgrace, and we can laugh at it. But really, there's people that suffer from it because, like I said, I'd have been bummed if I was the one guy who didn't get to get in because they gave a scholarship to a non-football player, and then he quit a day later if I was one of those guys, and I didn't get in and had to go to my second or third or fifth choice. That would suck. So, yeah, it's the elite part of that, and the fact that money can do that for you and you didn't have to earn it is a disgrace. Disgrace to Yale, disgrace to Southern Cal, disgrace to Stanford, disgrace to not to the university, but to those who allowed it to happen that are part of the university. That's why I don't put an umbrella on it. I don't believe that the boss at Southern Cal or the board of regent leader at Stanford said, yeah, this is a really good idea. I don't believe that would happen. I just believe it's a few bad apples and some guy that beat the system and people bought into it, SAT. And we all wish somebody would have taken the SAT for us and got a perfect score. We don't really, but it would have been kind of cool. But to say he did it, but in the end, you realize it's the wrong way. So I can't even fathom doing that. My dad, I mean, it's just a disgrace. I would have never been able to be a part of that.
Sean Salisbury with us. Sean, mob mentality and groupthink can be dangerous when it comes to sports. But I'm looking at this roster, and I'm looking at Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, and now Kareem Hunt, who's going to miss 8 games but be back for the second 8 games of the year, and Duke Johnson and Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, and we haven't even gotten to Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward in that defense. Number one, I wonder if Hugh Jackson's somewhere. I know you know Hugh, just banging his head against a wall. Number two, is it hyperbole to say these guys are going to be really freaking good next year?
No, I'm sure Hugh is, and the sad thing about it is Hugh had some chance, and I like Hugh as a person, but it just didn't work for him, and Freddie Kitchens has coached him better. It's just the way it is, man. That's sometimes you got to take the L, and they're a better team without Hugh being there and with what they've done. But I love John Dorsey is not taking the route of the New England Patriots or what Green Bay's done in the past. We got great quarterback. Now, it's worked for the Patriots and at times for Green Bay. But look what Kansas – I'll compare Kansas City to Cleveland in a second. But there is this thought process, and some say, well, New England did it. They don't get stars. They win Super Bowls without paying their players, so let's just do it that way. That doesn't work very often. They got the perfect storm in New England with the best coach ever and the best quarterback ever, where they can let their big-time players go, replace them with somebody who's not as big-time, and that not as big-time turns into a bigger-time player that 3 years later is the guy that they just let go, that kind of player.
Right.
And in Green Bay, they're finally starting to figure it out. They got to go get Aaron Rodgers some players. It's too big a burden to bear on a quarterback to be able to say, score 37, 38 a week, man, we need you. And for year after year. Well, Kansas City decided we're not doing that. Even though our defense is very good, we're going to give you great running backs. We're going to give you Kelsey. We're going to give you Hill. We're going to their weapons are through the roof. And now Cleveland, same way. You got a quarterback in Baker Mayfield who led the league as a rookie, first time ever, I think, or the most touchdown passes by a rookie quarterback ever. It would have been easy to say, well, we got this quarterback. Let's hoard our money and wait till we get it and go through the draft. They've said, John Dorsey said, no. Got a great quarterback. We're going to make him. We're not going to get caught in that trap. We're going to build it. So you think about what they've done. You just named all those names, and it's one after. It's a pecking order. Yeah. Garrett. Oh, the next year we get Mayfield. Why are we waiting? They stole Beckham. A first and a third, and Jabril Peppers. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then you look at the Giants and say, how stupid are you guys? So you get Beckham and Landry. Who are you going to defend? And Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. They went and got Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon. They're friggin' loaded. No, it's not hyperbole. I went through the list. If they're not in your top 5 as Super Bowl favorites, the top 2 or 3 it's going to be New England, Kansas City, and them are your 3 favorites in the AFC.
Yep.
Now they got to go prove it because they don't have playoff moxie because they haven't been in for so long. I go on in Cleveland every week. I'm so happy for those fans because when I played all through these years, those fans are spectacular, man. They love their sports. They love their football. It's good, hardcore, blue-collar, let's go win. And they've been suffering, man. They're like the Red Sox baseball fans or the Cubs baseball fans. It's been a while for them. So, lo and behold, they go out and build it. Dorsey does a good job, gets the people in place. They're going to win the division, and they're a dangerous January team because they're loaded and a quarterback with swagger. If they stay healthy, you're going to have a hell of a time, just like against Kansas City, trying to defend them. I love the way they're building it to the point of we're going to give a great quarterback great players instead of saying we got a great quarterback and let's bargain basement price around him. They're doing it the right way, and the Cleveland Browns are no longer anybody's laughingstock. They're going to kick a lot of ass this year. That is the voice of Sean Salisbury. He joins us every single Friday at 7:30 throughout the year. I was saying before you came on, Sean, it's been about 9-10 years. I was trying to figure out since we first started doing some radio together. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. We never take you for granted. Always appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks. Have a great weekend. All right, you too. That's Sean Salisbury. Yeah, Sean's a big USC guy, but he didn't pull punches. He didn't pull punches at all. Some Sacramento connections on that deal, too, by the way. So the guy running it.
I just want to let you know I just went downstairs.
Yeah.
And I saw Scott, one of our sales guys.
Yeah.
And the first thing he says to me is, you ordered salad at a barbecue place?
That's find the lie. Kyle, we went to a phenomenal barbecue place, and Kyle got a salad. That is 100% true.
I like that you framed that like that's all I ordered.
I didn't say that.
No, I didn't say that.
I didn't say it.
Dave.
I didn't say it. I'm Kyle. I get salad.
I'm Dave. I order a bunch of food and then don't eat it all. At least I ate all my food.
Oh, ouch. Ow. Somebody go to the first aid kit. I'm burning.
At least I ate the food I ordered.
I'm on fire. I'm Dave. I order a bunch of food. I don't finish it.
You didn't eat it. You're making fun of me. No, see, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Is you're calling out my masculinity because I ordered a freaking salad before. No, that's what it is.
No.
Go look at the comments on Twitter.
No, that's them.
That's absolutely what it is. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing.
It's masculine to eat a salad.
Okay.
Salads are for men.
Okay.
And women. And bunnies.
And then I ordered a bunch of food, and I ate all of it. You did.
I'm just still like, is it? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Is it a burn to say?
Yeah, because you're sitting here going like, I besmirched this barbecue place by eating some vegetables, and you didn't even respect the food enough to eat all of it.
But I mean,
I
was
wasted
full.
it.
Is that
yeah, but stuff it down your gullet.
Oh, I didn't want to. Plus, man. That place you took us to that morning, it was the best biscuits and gravy I ever had, but that was a straight
That's true. We were at the restaurant and you were like, this isn't gonna go well.
It was not like super peppery gravy with sausage, and it was so good, dude, but it was a brick. And I was by the time when we left for the barbecue place, I was wondering if I'd even be able to eat. Like I was still full, and it was like 12 hours later.
We finally left.
Yeah, right. Hi, Jay.
This part of the show brought to you by Diabetes. Get you some today.
I was going to say
Back to you.
Die of something, not beaties. That biscuits and gravy.
Rhea got to go to break.
All right. When we come back, Rhea Perlman played Carla in the show Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Comedian Rhea Ora.
What?
Rita Ora?
Rita Ora is not a comedian. She's an artist.
Gosh, everyone knows that, Kyle.
Who's the? Go ahead.
Kings fall to the Celtics, and Kyle has a game he wants us to play. It's The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK.